Welcome to Ode to Games. My name's Logan Plant, joined today by Zach Ross, who, after some delivery questions, has a PS5 in hand. How is it, Zach?
It's fantastic. And yeah, like you said, I didn't know when this thing was coming, and it didn't arrive on the day they said it would, so it kind of caught me off guard. But it was a pleasant surprise because now I've actually got my hands on it. And it's massive. It was in a
It
huge
is.
box. Yeah,
It is
they
huge.
just the box was like messed up, so I was a little concerned. But the contents were not destroyed. Thank goodness. It was just the outer shell, and it arrived in perfect condition.
And we'll hear more about Zach's experience with his PS5 a little bit later in the show. We're also joined by Kevin Valine. Hello, Kevin.
I do not have a PS5. The grind
Oh, wah,
continues.
wah. Yeah. It'll happen.
One of
It'll
these
happen
days.
someday.
It might not. We can't lie to them.
Maybe I'll get one when
Three
the
years
PS6
from now.
comes out, you know?
Oh, devastating. Yeah, but we'll get into all that PS5 goodness a little later in the show. We're going to start off with some news. First, some follow up from the Activision Blizzard Xbox acquisition that we talked about a lot last week on our massive episode 200, over 2 hours in length. If you haven't checked that one out yet from last week, it was a good time. But we have some updates here. The main thing to take away from the last week is that we have learned that the next three Call of Duty games will make it to both PlayStation in addition to Xbox. So not going console exclusive quite yet. I know that was one of the main questions after last week. So we've learned that Call of Duty 2022, so this year's entry, next year's entry, and Warzone 2, which is also expected to come next year, will both be coming to PlayStation consoles as well. So Call of Duty fans on PlayStation can rest easy, at least for a couple of years, Kevin.
Yeah, only for a couple of years, because there was a tweet that came out earlier, which was basically saying we're going to honor any existing agreements that we have with PlayStation, which probably means that there was agreements in place for the next couple of Call of Duty games. But after those, they could very easily just move them over to Xbox. At that point, there would be nothing stopping them. I believe that was a very similar stance to what they took with Bethesda. You know, you had Deathloop and Ghostwire Tokyo.
Yeah, which we're still waiting on.
Right, and so it's just like those were already confirmed for PlayStation exclusives, and so they're like, "Yep, we're honoring all of the existing agreements we have that Bethesda has, and then after that, we'll just do what we want." So remains to be seen what's going to happen with Call of Duty after these next couple of entries.
Yeah, Zach, anything to add?
It's just going to be interesting to see what they decide to do after they no longer have to fill these contractual obligations. But you spend $70. I don't see why they wouldn't move, or $70 billion.
You spend $70 on the next COD game.
Yeah, on a
That's
exactly.
true.
You spend $70 billion. I don't know why you wouldn't move towards a more exclusive environment for your games.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, and then on
the statement
Go
just
ahead.
makes Xbox look good. That's what they did with Bethesda, where they're just like, yeah, we're going to keep on
Exactly.
doing that. And then later down the line, you can roll out the, oh, yeah, Starfield's going to be exclusive. Elder Scrolls 6 probably going to be exclusive. And I have a feeling that something along those lines is going to happen. Maybe not every Call of Duty game will be exclusive, but I feel like it's inevitable that at least some of them will be.
Yeah, absolutely. Then on the other side of the Activision Blizzard deal, that we got Bobby Kotick, who people are still having to deal with at Activision, the CEO that people want gone, and we're learning that he apparently turned up late and left early from a meeting designed to reassure disgruntled employees. So there's supposed to be a fireside chat sort of meeting between upper management and employees of Activision Blizzard about the future. But this apparently only lasts 16 minutes, according to the Washington Post, after Kotick turned up 7 minutes late and finished the meeting early. So just not a good look, and just another reason that even though it might just be the lesser of two evils, employees are still waiting eagerly to be under Microsoft's umbrella.
Yeah, just the sooner the acquisition is complete and they can boot him out of there, the better. I don't think it's going to get any better under him. But again, it's like what's going to happen when Microsoft takes over, we don't know. But at the very least, there's going to be some sort of clean slate that hopefully they can right some of the egregious wrongs that Bobby Kotick's had over his 30 plus years there.
It seems like he's just riding the rest of this year out until the acquisition is finished.
Did we talk about the Kotaku thing as part of our conversation last week? I can't remember if that came out the next day or if when we recorded last week. That apparently Bobby Kotick thought that a way to change public opinion on Activision Blizzard was to buy a
We
site
did not
like
talk
Kotaku.
about that, but
oh my gosh, just
disgusting.
absolutely ridiculous.
Gross.
More like a way to change public opinion of Kotaku, not of Activision Blizzard.
Yeah, the dude just seems incredibly tone deaf, considering that a lot of this meeting seemed to be like, oh, I'm, reassuring everyone that I'm going to be here until the Microsoft thing is complete and I'll do whatever they need me to do. And I'm sure that everyone's like, we just want you gone, dude. Like, yeah. This is not what we need. But you have to wait for the agreement to be completed.
Which is still like a year and a half away, so still... Not the end is in sight, but still pretty far off for whatever his current role is at the company. All right, let's move on to some more positive news. Pokemon reviews are out. Pokemon Legends Arceus is dropping this Friday, so right around when this show comes out, and the reviews are pretty much overwhelmingly positive. It's sitting at an 86 right now on Metacritic. Lots of people saying it's the best Pokemon has been in a very long time, which I think in all of our opinion is not saying very much of what the franchise has been really the last decade or so. But yeah, people are seeming to really enjoy it. They say that the graphics are the main thing holding it back, which seems to be a big issue for Game Freak lately. But otherwise, it seems like a lot of people are finding this to be the more open adventure that Pokemon fans have wanted the series to go on for a while. So either you guys, do these reviews change your opinion of the game? Any chance of picking it up and trying it out for yourself?
I think that there's a greater chance. I still don't think I'm going to pick it up on launch. I do want to wait until after release date when all publications have it and fans have it as well to see what sort of reaction it gets from the wider audience, because sometimes the reviews can be skewed a little bit with what outlets get it and when fans don't have it yet. But it seems like the core ideas that Arceus has are really good. That the idea of these open areas, being able to go out and catch the Pokemon, not necessarily in battle, but trying to sneak up on them and having to do different strategies to catch different Pokemon, and just the exploration side of things, it seems like that all really works. But it looks to me like it's the first game where they're trying this out, and you're gonna have bumps along the way. The Pokemon Company hasn't done much to prove that they can really keep on improving on that. But at the same time, when you do change something as drastic as this, you're gonna expect things to have some rough patches. And if the core gameplay is good and it's just the graphics and performance that need to get tightened up, I feel like that's probably best case scenario, because then that's what they can work on for the next game, but know that they have a strong loop of gameplay intact.
Yeah, absolutely. I am a little cautious about this still, because there were some very positive reviews for Sword and Shield as well, which Zach and I did not enjoy. And even Sun and Moon got glowing reviews from pretty much everywhere, and I was not very much a fan of that game either. But this one's definitely shaking things up. It just makes me wish that they just put out a game 2 months ago. I wish this wasn't coming out till November and it could look and run better now, instead of saying, wow, this is great, but we have to wait for the next one for it to look and run great, when that might not even be the case if they feel the need to just keep cranking these things out year after year. So I guess that's kind of my hang-up, is I don't have faith that they'll really ever look visually better. Sword and Shield did not look visually great. This doesn't really either. But in terms of gameplay and mechanics, I am a fan of what I'm reading. It does seem like kind of the first inkling of this idea was the wild area in Sword and Shield, and it's really fantastic that they took that idea and just blew it up to 1,000 and really based the entire game around that. And I still don't think I'm going to play it for a while at least. I do want to see what other fans think of it, more cynical Pokemon fans than maybe some of the people that have been reviewing this so far. But I am happy to see them taking a risk and it apparently paying off so far.
Zach, are you going to pick it up?
No, I'm glad that reviewers are liking it, and I am cautiously optimistic. I wasn't planning on playing it, but Now that this is the case, still not going to pick it up on launch, especially now that I have a bunch of PS5 titles to buy.
Yeah.
But maybe down the line, like you said, once the more critical fan base has got their ideas out there, I might actually pick it up.
I'm just so curious about it. Like, I just want to try it. Like,
Yeah.
if like Zach picks it up or something, I just want to try it for a little bit and see what that loop is like, because I see it compared to two things I really, really like: Breath of the Wild and Monster Hunter, where it's like, yeah, it has this open exploration, but then some of the mission structure is like Monster Hunter, where you start in the hub town, you go out to complete an objective, you go back to the hub town to complete and get your rewards, and then head out to the next mission. And that loop can be very addicting, as we've proven, if it's done right. But some of the gameplay I see, it's like, are you just rolling around and then throwing a ball at this Pokemon over and over? Or is there a little more to it? And honestly, it seems like they had some pretty tight review embargoes about this thing, about what people actually could and could not talk about. So I think a lot of the more nitty-gritty gameplay stuff we're not going to hear about until the game is out there in the wild, and we're just looking around on Twitter and other places to see what people think of, beyond the things the reviewers could actually talk about.
And whenever you have a situation like that, just go back to Cyberpunk. I know it's a little bit different with that because that had so many different systems that it was launching on, and some things were better than others. But
yeah,
if they're telling you what you can and can't talk about, that does make you a little bit worried. Doesn't mean that it's all bad, but it means you should probably take it with a little more of a grain of salt and be skeptical until it actually comes out and people have no limitations on what they can say about it.
Yeah. Yeah, so we'll find out, but exciting to see people be excited about Pokemon again, because I feel like it has been a while since kind of everyone has agreed on anything within that universe. But I'm excited to see how it shakes out. I do think it's really cool. There's a game more focused on catch 'em all, which has not really been a thing forever since the series has just grown and grown. But yeah, I'm intrigued by it, and we may talk about this more next week when more impressions are out there from some other folks. Let's move on for now to a lot of Star Wars news. EA no longer has the exclusivity deal with the Star Wars franchise to create games, but they are still making 3 new Star Wars games. They did not announce any titles for these. They just announced the genre, which is pretty interesting. So we do know the biggest one for me, they're making a sequel to Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, which was my game of the year in 2019. So I'm very excited about that one personally. And they're also making a new first-person shooter from Respawn, so that is the Titanfall developers and the developers of the first Fallen Order game, and a strategy game from former XCOM developers. So we've got the third-person action, the FPS, and then a strategy game for Star Wars. And then outside of what EA is working on, we know that we have the Knights of the Old Republic remake, we know we have the Eclipse game coming from the Detroit Become Human developers, and we have Lego Star Wars coming out later this year. We just got a release date for that too. So there's a ton of Star Wars games on the horizon.
There's a lot of games.
Busting them out. Just like the shows and whatnot. Yeah. Disney just pumping those boys out.
Non-stop Star Wars.
Ready for worse.
I know you guys don't care about Star Wars too much, but anything here that intrigues you or that you want to talk about?
You know, I've always been interested in XCOM as a game, like the XCOM type of game. So maybe that one stands out the most to me, because those strategy type games are something I haven't really given a whole lot of time to, that have always like kind of piqued my interest as an outsider. So maybe one of those. Also, Knights of the Old Republic looked cool, and so did Eclipse, because we've actually seen glimpses of those. And I know you've been pressing me to play Jedi Fallen Order, which has fallen drastically to the bottom of my list after all these games that I have to play right now. So I apologize for that.
It's got a really beefy PS5 upgrade.
Already?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, that's tempting. That is very tempting.
And that is a game where my biggest issue with it was its performance, and apparently that's totally
fixed on PS5. Free on Game Pass, I believe.
Yeah, so the Series S boost could probably be good enough for you too.
Exactly.
How about you, Kev?
I'm just glad that EA doesn't have the exclusive license anymore. Because there was that whole thing of what their first 6 years was Battlefront 1 and Battlefront 2, and that was it.
Yeah.
I feel like, one, you have other developers working on it. Of course, you're going to get a bunch of different games. But two, I feel like it forces EA to be a little bit more creative with what they decide to do, because they actually have competition for Star Wars games. If they're just pumping out Battlefronts and no one really cares, you can just go and play one of the other Star Wars games that's in development. And it's exciting that one, they're going back to a single player game in Jedi Fallen Order and giving it a sequel, but then doing something a little bit different in the XCOM strategy game and kind of widening the scope of these Star Wars games beyond just a simple Battlefront 1 and Battlefront 2. So, yeah.
And another thing from this, no Battlefront 3 from EA. They said DICE is just working on Battlefield right now.
Which is struggling, so I don't think they have any time for Battlefront 3.
Yeah, but that reboot series was a little bit of a flop. Battlefront 2 did really turn it around. I think that the narrative was just already written for that one by the time it actually turned itself into a good product. But yeah, I'm very excited about Star Wars Jedi. According to Jason Schreier, he says the Fallen Order sequel's been in production for a while and should be out this year or next. So it could already be coming, which is super exciting. I just really wonder about that one. Obviously, no spoilers for how that thing leaves off, but it could continue on with the current cast of characters in this era, or I could see it going somewhere in a completely different time period in the Star Wars universe. I have no idea where it's going to go, but I am extremely disconnected from Star Wars compared to how I used to be. Hated the last movie. It killed a lot of my love of the series, and really the only thing I care about anymore is the Fallen Order sub-series. I guess the Jedi sub-series. They're calling it the next Star Wars Jedi game. So I have no idea what the subtitle is going to be, but that's all I really care about with Star Wars anymore. So that's going to be great.
What about the next thing, Lego Star Wars?
Yeah, and I'll probably play that. Some nasty news about crunch at that studio recently as well. That came out the same time as their release date announcement, kind of put a damper on that news. But Lego Star Wars The Skywalker Saga is coming on April 5th, along with a big gameplay overview. And yeah, this is the one that includes all 9 movies, but totally remade levels, because they've done the first 6 movies before in Lego form. And yeah, my sister and I used to always play these growing up, so I'm also interested in this one. But yeah, the reports of crunch did put a sour taste in my mouth about it.
When was that supposed to come out?
Oh, let's see. I actually have that article pulled up. I think it's been delayed 3 times.
Okay.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that it's been delayed. It was supposed to come out in spring 2020 and then spring 2021 and now 2022. So It was supposed to be out 2 years ago.
Sounds like some great management at that studio.
Yeah, and there's all this nonsense about how they were pushed to use this totally new engine for the game. The developers wanted to use Unreal Engine, and management said, no, we're going to use our new in-house engine because it's cheaper and we don't have to pay for it to license Unity. And so that was a whole debacle, and they created this new combo system for the combat that then after testing they scrapped it because they found that players were just using one button like Lego games have always been. So just like work thrown in the garbage and changes, and yeah, it's not great. But I guess that's some of the growing pains sometimes when this title looks so much more ambitious than any of the Lego games that have basically followed the same formula all the way going back to Lego Star Wars in like 2004, 2005, whenever that first Lego Star Wars game came out.
GameCube and Xbox, so that was before 360, PS3 in like 2005 and 6.
Yeah, and they've gotten a little more ambitious and a little more open worldy with their hub worlds, but this Lego Star Wars looks totally different than the other Lego games have. So it's apparently been pretty rocky to get it out, though.
Oof. Which seems to be the case for a lot of games.
Yeah. But yeah, lots of Star Wars stuff on the horizon. I also saw that Eclipse from Quantic Dream might not be out until 2026 was a thing I saw floating around.
Crap.
That apparently it's like dealing with a ton of issues. And you think back to like Detroit Become Human. We knew about that thing for years before it came out. So I guess that could be a similar
kind of their thing.
Here.
Yeah.
Well, Quantic Dream's got its own issues. Not all rosy over there either.
Yeah.
So
Star Wars Jedi. I hope I'm playing that at the end of this year. That would be a huge holiday surprise. I didn't expect it so soon. This year or next is pretty exciting. I guess it already has been 3 years though by the time this holiday rolls around.
Be nice with all these other games that have either been delayed a bunch of times or just we don't know very much about them. That it could just be like, hey, here's the announcement. It's coming out in like 4 months or something.
Yeah, if Zelda doesn't make it, like, here's Star Wars, I'll be like, all right, I'll take it. I guess I'll take it.
Consolation prize.
All right, Sony revealed PlayStation Plus games for February. Zach and I just recently bought one of them on sale, which always hurts.
Yes.
Tiny Tina's Assault on Dragon Keep. That's the one-shot DLC from Borderlands 2 that they released as standalone ahead of Tiny Tina's Wonderlands. Zach and I bought it on Xbox for $5.
$5. Yeah, $5 on sale.
Okay.
Off of $10. So really not that bad.
Not bad.
Yes.
But,
and then EA Sports UFC 4. I don't see any of us playing. But then Kev, Planet Coaster. You interested in Planet Coaster?
I'm interested in Planet Coaster. I don't know if I guess I'll probably try it on console, but I think it's a game that I'd rather play on PC. Those types of games work so much better with mouse and keyboard than they do with a controller. Yeah. And I don't know if I'd really enjoy it with a controller, but at the very least, I think I'll give it a shot because I've always looked at Planet Coaster since it came out several years ago and be like, oh, that'd be fun to get into. I enjoyed Roller Coaster Tycoon 3 like a decade and a half ago. It'd be fun to try that out. So maybe I'll try it out on PlayStation just to get a feel for how the game is. And if I really like it, I'd probably swap over to PC just for that mouse and keyboard. But it's a nice way to get a trial for it. Since it's
and Zach,
free.
You've played some roller coaster games too, right?
Yeah, I played Roller Coaster Tycoon around the same time, like 15 years ago on PC. I enjoyed it. I think it's been a long
They're great
time.
Games. You'll probably enjoy.
And I believe I also played some Thrillville.
Thrillville, classic.
Back in the PS2 days. So yes, I have delved into the roller coaster subgenre of video games. No, I don't think I will check out Planet Coaster.
Heard it's good though. But yeah, whenever you've got PS like Plus. A sports game headlining your PS Plus game.
Oh, but like... isn't that the PS5 only one? Now that I'm thinking about it.
Oh, is it?
The UFC or
the Planet Coaster is for PS5 only.
Well, maybe I will just play it. Screw me, I guess. I won't be playing that.
You can still redeem it.
You can still redeem it
online. Have you been doing that for all the PS5 games, Kevin?
All the ones that I remember to do, yeah.
Yeah.
It seems interesting that like they allow you to do that, which is great, but they don't make it an easy process.
Yeah.
Of like you actually have to like look that up and figure out how to do it. It doesn't give you the option on PS4 to just be like, "Hey, redeem this and you can play it if you ever upgrade." It's like, "No, you got to go on the browser and pick it up there." Kind of weird.
Yeah. That is weird. And one of our last stories here. The Yakuza series creator, that's Toshihiro Nagoshi, has started his own development studio within NetEase, which he made the transition to, we learned last year, from Sega, which he'd been with since 1989, now with NetEase Games. And yeah, he's now starting his own studio. We don't really know what it's going to be about. They're going to create content for the world to enjoy. So that's it's a pretty broad statement of what they're going to do. Yeah, debatable. But yeah, so we'll see what he's going to do here. If it's going to be something like Yakuza, something totally different, and where these games are even going to come. So we don't really have any idea. But yeah, it's becoming more official that he's becoming a new development head over for NetEase.
Yeah, and
cool.
You've got people from RGG Studio, Daisuke Sato, one of the producers, who also followed him over there. So there's a lot of overlap from the old studio, but I feel like having this new studio is probably going to help him create newer experiences. Like I love the Yakuza games, love every single one of them, but that has been his bread and butter for the last 15 years since the original on PS2. And, I know that, Super Monkey Ball, the newer ones have been under the RGG banner, which is kind of weird. But I feel like he's going to have a lot more creative freedom to kind of just do whatever. And we know that he makes good games. He made Monkey Ball. He made F-Zero GX. He's made the Yakuza games. We know that he has got range to make a bunch of different experiences. And now that he's not necessarily tethered to Yakuza, since that's become such a big pillar for Sega, I'm excited to see what else he can do with that freedom to kind of do whatever he wants to do.
Yeah, he's made like my two favorite GameCube games ever.
I trust this man with whatever he decides to do. So I'm glad he has the creative freedom to do so with his new studio.
Now we'll just have to wait a very long time for the games.
Oh, absolutely.
You guys think it's almost time to get that to hear what Yakuza games coming this year? I feel like we're almost due for an announcement.
They were they've sprinkled some things here and there of just being like, oh, Yakuza 8's in development and everything like that. And I feel like we'll probably get it later this year for like a winter release. They're basically yearly at this point. And now that America's caught up, or the West is caught up, it's not like 3 games a year, just pumping out the remastered collections. And then
that was a ridiculous stretch for a while.
But it's great that they're all out. Yeah, I would assume that we'd hear something sometime in the spring or early summer with a release in fall, early winter, or something like that would be my guess.
It's going to be a huge year for games. It is. It's going to be massive. As long as everything doesn't get pushed again.
Which is possible.
Yeah. And part of that huge year that could get pushed is Sonic Frontiers. It's time for our quick rumor roundup.
All right.
What do we got
this week? This week, I want to bring to you not so much a rumor, but more the conversation surrounding Sonic Frontiers right now on the Twitter community, and that is this inexplicable outrage from so many fans over the debate of if they're reusing Sonic's model from Sonic Forces, or if they're going back to the more classic style from Unleashed and Generations. And it looks like the Forces model. The main difference of contention here is his quill length. His quills are shorter. His quills are shorter in Forces, and it appears they're going to be shorter again in Frontiers, just like in Forces, when they have kind of a longer look in Unleashed and other 3D Sonic games. And people are taking this to be indicative of the quality of Frontiers, saying that, oh, it looks like Forces, it's going to be bad like Forces.
Do they not remember that Unleashed is like terrible for more like 60% of the game?
Not when he's got the long quills as the hedgehog.
Oh, long, very long.
Yeah. But I just think it's the number one thing people are talking about with Sonic Frontiers right now is his quills, and people are just freaking out. And to you, I just want to say, the Sonic Frontiers community, Link's model in Breath of the Wild is the same base as Skyward Sword, and those games could not be more different from each other. So I don't think there's a reason to worry. People just reuse assets to save time.
Look, rest assured, whether or not they reuse the model for Sonic, the game will probably be bad, and we all know it. We're all prepared for it, and if it turns out that it's good, big surprise. That'll be great, but we all just got to go in expecting garbage, and then we'll get pleasantly surprised and not bring in his quill length, because over the last 2 decades of Sonic games, that has not determined if the games are good or not. What determines it is that Sonic is on the cover, and that usually is not a good thing.
His quills were long in Sonic and the Secret Rings, which I believe is the only game that our own Zach Ross has given a 1 star on his GG profile.
That game is trash. Oh my god.
It has received a 1.0.
And well deserved, I would say.
Absolutely.
Did you give it a 1 star because of his quill length? Too long?
I took it into consideration.
It's part of my criteria.
Yeah,
it's very mathematical and not purely emotional.
Very confused. That's what people are talking about right now when it comes to
Sonic fan base is dedicated to a fault.
It's because we got nothing else. They didn't show any gameplay, or all we've got is dissect that.
We got 2 images, and then Sega being like, "Oh, we wanted to get this out last year. Oops."
And the languages, the supported languages are out.
And then Amy's dead.
Hey, maybe that's a total rumor, and that's it.
She's either dead or has reduced quill lengths, or has quills.
Lengthened quills for Amy. New look.
Yeah, big deal. That's going to be a make or to break it for the game. We got to measure all
their hair is going to go down to the ground.
Ooh, that'd be cool.
Once Sega realizes that's all they have to do to make a good Sonic game, they're just like, all right,
that's it.
Yeah. In the bag.
Full length. Yep.
Wow.
I will say, I do think the older quill length is better. I think it looks nicer. I think he looks kind of weird in Forces. I agree with that, but I do not care to the slightest if that's the model they use in the next game. It does not matter.
It's just if
That's
the game's
all I have
good or
to say
not. And
about Quill
probably.
Link.
Yeah, hopefully it doesn't matter.
Yeah. And that's it for our news this week.
All right,
That wasn't news.
That's gonna do it for this week's rumor roundup. We're gonna be
yeah.
moving on to what we've
Twitter
been playing.
beef roundup.
Twitter beef
pretty
roundup.
much. Quill roundup.
Oh
My
my
goodness.
god.
The Quill corner.
These rumors get more and more ridiculous by the week.
That's
And it's only January.
We knew that was gonna happen when we were gonna do this every week. Bottom barrel scraping was gonna happen. I don't know if I was gonna expect it to be that quick, but man, thank God we didn't do this when we had the year of Sonic there, where they like announced the plushie line
nothing.
and then
It was
nothing
just
else.
Dead
Rumor.
air.
One
There
piece
will
of news every week. Or
there
every
will
month.
be no more announcements for the rest of the
No
year.
rumors.
That is the rumor. Anyways,
Yeah.
Zach.
All right. Well, now that we're done with that rumor roundup, we'll be moving on to what we've been playing. For me, I know personally it's been quite a bit since I got my PS5, so I got a lot to talk about, but we won't start with me. We'll start with Kevin, who has been playing a glitchy mess.
Yeah.
Why don't you tell us about that glitchy mess, Kevin?
Before I get into that,
Sonic Frontiers? You've been playing Sonic Frontiers?
yeah,
exactly.
I was the one that started the Twitter beef. I don't like his quill length.
Hey.
Anyways, before I get into that, I played a little bit more Brilliant Diamond because me and my girlfriend were doing the underground stuff, because I actually didn't do any of the multiplayer underground stuff when I was playing the game. I just kind of beelined it to the end, and I wanted to see how it was in this new game, and it is not good. It is not good. So in the original game, the main thing with having multiplayer in the underground was, one, you had your secret base that you could design so that people could go and see it, and it was like, cool. That's basically not there, because now you just dump all these statues in your room to get all of the spawns. And two, there was like the capture the flag mechanic, where you could like capture the flag from their base and take it back to yours. That's completely gone. So you can't really do games with in multiplayer in the underground.
What's even the point?
So it's like, why is there multiplayer? And then there's other really weird things. So you can go do a mining spot on the wall, and then if someone in multiplayer comes to that section that you're mining, they will also be able to mine at that, which you would think would mean that you could mine it at the same time and kind of like tag team it. But no, the first person cannot help the second person, and when the second person is doing their digging, each time they hit, it will hit on the other person's screen, but will only do one tiny thing of damage no matter what hammer they're using. So it's basically like non-existent. And it's like, why is that even there?
That's weird.
It provides no assistance. And then you have the Diglets and Doug trios that you have to collect like 40 of them. And it was like, oh, if you do it in multiplayer, then you get them faster. But the reward that you get has it's not for multiplayer. It's just like, oh, you have a greater chance of finding shiny statues in the wall. And so it's like, that has no bearing on multiplayer whatsoever. So I just thought it was funny that the multiplayer in the underground is completely pointless in Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. So I had to talk about that for a second.
Yikes.
Yeah, so that was kind of sad. Another thing that's kind of sad, I've been playing Mafia 2. So I played...
That's just a depressing segue.
I played Mafia Definitive Edition, the original, where they completely remade it from the ground up. And it had its issues, performance stutters here and there. But for the most part, it was really good. Looked great on PS4 and, ran well. Didn't really have any issues with it. And I had heard that Mafia 2 was not that clean. And I didn't know if they had addressed too many of the issues post-launch. They have not. That game is super broken. So I'm almost done with it. I'm on the last chapter 15. The game has crashed on me 3 times. One time it crashed to like a blue screen on PlayStation, and the other 2 times there was a frozen cutscene on one, and then just recently in chapter 14, I was like walking down some stairs, and then the screen just went black, but my reticle was still there with my ammo, and there was like some weird water sounds in the background. I could shoot one bullet, and then I couldn't do anything. And so I went back thinking like, oh, it was like enacting a cutscene and something got messed up. No, like the game just operates normally. You're just like walking along. There was nothing like started. Some enemies showed up. So I was like, what caused my game to just freak out there? For an example, in chapter 14, I had that crash happen. So I had to go back to my last autosave because they didn't add manual saves into this remastered edition, which is great.
Nice.
So I go back. The game doesn't crash on me the second time, which is like great. So then I go through and do this combat section, and then I come back, and then my car is like glitched into the ground a little bit. Like the tires are like halfway into the ground. So I'm like, all right, let's see if I'd like crash the game here. But no, the car just kind of like pops out of the ground and just like, whoop, like there it is. So that was weird. And then in a later combat section, I'm doing a stealth kill on a guy. And when I go in for the stealth kill, he like backs up behind me. I'm still doing the stealth kill action. He shoots me a couple of times and then gets stealth killed by a ghost in the background behind me. And it was on like a building. So there was an animation for you to like throw him off the ledge, but he wasn't at the ledge. So he just got thrown over nothing into the ground and just went into the ground. Beyond the crashes and the other weird things that happen, the frame rate is a mess. Whenever you go into a tunnel, the frame rate will just crap out. The draw distance is really bad. Like pop-in is brutal. It's rough. Sometimes in cutscenes, the audio gets really staticky, and then sometimes it's fine. Like in the first couple of cutscenes, I thought it was just because it was like old audio, and that's just how it sounded on the 360. But then in later cutscenes, like it sounds fine. So I'm like, why is it freaking out? I don't know.
That's really weird.
Yeah, so it's rough. And it's sad because the game itself, I enjoy it. The story is great. I think the world design and just the setting and feeling of being in the 1940s and the 1950s is really well done. It's just the rest of the game itself that is just absolutely broken. And it's baffling that they launched it before the definitive edition of the first game came out. Like, why were you rushing to get it out before the first game came out? Like, wouldn't you want to get the first game out and then get the second one out so people play it 1 too? I don't know. It's
had to get 2 out the door.
Yeah, so it's a mess, and unless you played the first one and really like it for its story, I can't recommend it because it is a trial to get through. Like, it is not smooth. Your game will crash on you several times. Things will just break. I can't recommend it, but I'm playing it to the end. I still enjoy the story, and I'm going to see it through, but would not get a recommendation from me for you to play it unless you're unless you really love the first game and want to give it a shot, and maybe you have the trilogy and just give it a try. But it's rough. Not great.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. That is a mess of a game. So
yeah,
I assume you're gonna go through the rest of it and finish it.
Yeah, I'm on the last chapter, so I'll
hopefully it'll let you finish it without
hopefully it doesn't crash.
Probably deleting your save. Yeah.
It hasn't gone that far. If it does, not playing it again.
I wouldn't blame you.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it for me though.
Logan, what have you been playing by yourself before we get into the thing that we share on this?
So I'm going to start, or I'm going to talk about the longest. And last week I mentioned that I am playing the entire Zelda series this year. The year of Zelda for me.
Zelda.
And I'm very excited about it. I've started a big document where I did a big ranking of all the games before my replay. I'm going to re-rank them at the end. And then I'm keeping individual notes about what I like and don't like about each game as I'm playing it. And a great example of that is the one I'm starting with, Skyward Sword HD. I bought it on Switch. I did not want to play the old muddy, gross Wii version, so I bought it on Switch. And I am so torn on this game. I had very negative memories of it. I'm like, I like some of the story. I like some of the dungeons. I like Girahim as a villain. I think he's very cool. Skyloft, the city you start in and return to, is a cool place. But it's just a chore. And so I'm playing the third to half of this game. Basically, the chase Act 1, where you're chasing down Zelda, and you go to the forest, the volcano, and the desert for the first time. And I'm absolutely loving it at this point. I'm like, wow, this is why I need to keep notes as I'm going. So in 5 years, I'm not like, I dislike all of Skyward Sword. I think the first act of the game is incredibly strong, especially in Skyward Sword HD, where they have completely streamlined your departure from Skyloft. There are tutorials that are completely skippable now that previously totally bogged down the pacing right out of the gate. An example is there's this cat who's stuck on the roof that you used to have to rescue, and you have to climb the roof and get him and talk to the teacher before and after. You can just pass the teacher. You don't even need to talk to him. This is still there. You can talk to him, and you can decline to help him still at that point if you want. So just a lot of fixes like that example in the opening that get you going a lot faster. Motion controls. I'm playing with motion. I'm not doing the button. And it feels way better on Switch. Mostly because you don't need to place the Wii Remote upside down on the table like once every 5 minutes to recalibrate it, which was a constant issue in the Wii one. So that's way better. And Fi, your assistant, is way less obtrusive as well. She doesn't interrupt you as much. There's just a little flashing noise when she has something to say to you, but you can completely ignore her and just continue playing. So there's a lot of things that they totally fixed in this remake that make it a much more enjoyable experience, and this is the definitive way to play. There's just no reason to go play the Wii. Also, dowsing is the thing I hated in the first time I played it, which is where you like kind of basically use your sword as a metal detector to find the objective you're supposed to go. And it turns into this really obnoxious, fetchy scavenger hunt. I'm just not dowsing. I'm just discovering things naturally on my own, and it's just really fun. Great puzzles in the overworld. The overworld is like a puzzle that's like dungeons outside of dungeons. It's kind of how Skyward Sword works, and that's great. And then the dungeons are great. There's unique items that you don't get elsewhere in the series, like the beetle and the whip. Really cool stuff that they use in really smart ways with the motion controls and the puzzles. But then you get to the second act of the game, which is the most padded out, nonsensical, fetch questy excursion. Zach, I don't know if you feel this way, but I have found the pace to be grinding to a halt immediately after completing the third dungeon. Do you feel that way at all about the game's second half?
I did feel that the game started to drag significantly as you got further and further into it. It was alleviated substantially by the fact that I was playing it with another person, so when I felt like, oh, this is just going, I could pass off the controller and I could just take a mental break. Yes, the padding of these areas, having to go through them 3 times a piece with
too much.
However many changes they make to the area, it's still the same area. So yes, I do get what you're saying.
And then changing the area itself is enough for me. But it's just the stuff they make you do when you return to these areas. So I actually wrote down a list of what you need to do between the third and fourth dungeon just to fully paint this picture. You need to fight the imprisoned for the first time of 3. It's the first time you fight this guy out of 3 times of the game. You need to line up these 2 windmills to raise a pillar in Skyloft, but one of the windmills is broken, so you need to go down to the desert to find a part. But in order to activate the robot who will lift that part back up to Skyloft for you, you need an ancient flower. You probably already have one, but if you don't, you gotta go search for one. Then you align the windmills, you play your harp, it opens up a new area in the sky, you fly all the way across the world, you solve this spinny rotation puzzle, you learn a new song on your harp, you go back to the forest and you have to douse for the Silent Realm, or just find it if you don't want to douse. You have to do the Silent Realm, which is the stealth section, in just an alternate version of the forest you've already spent countless hours in at this point. Then you get the ability to swim underwater, so you need to climb to the top of the tree, talk to this old guy who tells you about the gate you need to open, but the gate is locked, so you need to find the matching symbol somewhere on the other side of the forest, so you can open the gate with it. You open the gate, you swim through the entire water area, then the dragon needs some special water, so you need to go back to the first temple of the game, go through the entire thing again with new enemies. You need to find a new key, get the water, fight a new mini-boss, go back to the dragon, restore the dragon, and then you get to the 4th temple. And that's probably exhausting just listening to that. Can you imagine doing it? It's just ridiculous. I don't know what they were thinking with the amount of padding in the second act of the game. It's honestly ruining the experience of what I was really enjoying my first 12 to 15 hours, but the last 5 have been pretty miserable.
Zach, did you have that
Skyward
point?
Sword.
I
Yeah.
When I played it on Wii, I got bored pretty quick, so I'm not the one to ask on Skyward Sword.
Well, the adjusted controls and the ability to move the camera does make it easier to stomach doing all of this stuff. However, it just goes on, and it doesn't stop until the end of the game, even with the third act. I mean, there is just constantly going back and forth, just doing all this stuff. And then on top of that, if you want to do side quests in Skyloft, that's just more time you got to spend outside of the dungeons doing other stuff. So it's a really long game, and the guy I was playing with knew it really well, so we didn't really get lost ever, so we beat it pretty quickly. But yeah, if you just going into this blind, it can be a little overwhelming.
And it's a shame because there is a really good game in there that if they had taken a little more time to undo, take 5 steps out of what I just read off to get from Dungeon 3 to Dungeon 4 and kind of clean up some of the pacing elsewhere, Skyward Sword would be great. But it's just a really messy game that I'm still enjoying. The dungeons are fantastic. That 4th dungeon I'm in now is one of my favorite Zelda dungeons in the series. It's just a chore. And this kind of conclusion I came to, it's the last thing I'll say on it, so we don't go on and on about this game, is that the 3 main pillars of Zelda, the series in general, are exploration, combat, and puzzle solving. Right? That's what makes up a Zelda game. In Skyward Sword, all 3 of those feel like puzzle solving. The overworld is built like a dungeon, so you're constantly solving puzzles to progress rather than natural exploration. Combat is like a puzzle because you need to slash your sword in the right direction and be constantly judging your enemy of what way to slash. And then puzzles obviously feel like puzzles. So Skyward Sword is just exhausting because you're constantly doing these logic puzzles and then they just never end. It just goes on and on. So it's the most exhausting Zelda game to play because it's just a lot of the same thing over and over. And it's a shame because I loved Act 1 and Act 2. I'm like, here's those old feelings for this game coming back of why it's one of the worst Zelda games there is.
Yeah, well, the things I always heard was just repetition. And I was like, I already don't really love it. And I'm like, if I'm going to have to do the same thing over and over again, no thanks.
Yeah. There's some really brilliant puzzles, but there's just a lot to slog through. But the HD version does clean it up. So if you ever, probably not Kevin, I wouldn't recommend this to Kevin, but if you're a big Zelda fan that has struggled to get through Skyward Sword, this is the time to do it because HD it's a much cleaner game. But yeah, I will probably have that beat in the next couple of weeks, hopefully, unless I totally burn out on it. Yeah. But other than that, I'm playing God of War 2018.
Yeah.
Which I am way further. Oh yeah, I'm way past that. I'm way past the guy. I boosted the difficulty. I boosted it back to normal after beating him. Okay. I'm like, I'll play normal on the game, the rest of the game I've never seen before. And the parts I've played since where I stopped previously, I think have been the strongest parts of the game. I'm like, man, if I just kept going for a little bit, maybe I would have been pulled in more back then. So really enjoying that. Not too much to add right now. And then Zach and I played Gears of War Ultimate Edition, which is an Xbox One remake of the very first Gears of War game.
Yeah, we sat down to play this game, unknowing that we would beat it in one sitting. We were not planning to do that, but we did it. It was not nearly as long as I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, it was fast.
I guess that is very similar to what I experienced with the Halo games. Like, each Halo game, especially the earlier ones, like the trilogy, way faster than I remembered them being. Like, you can breeze through those games in like 5 to 8 hours. So I think Gears of War might be following a similar trend to where, especially if you're playing with 2 people on co-op, you can just tear through these enemies and these levels and just go at a pretty quick pace. And knowing nothing about the Gears of War franchise going into it, I thought this game was decent. I didn't love it. I had fun playing it because we played it on co-op. That was a good time. There were a handful of glitches. Some mostly annoying because it made us restart from checkpoints and having to redo fights because moving on to the next area was glitched. The doors wouldn't open or something happened and the cutscene wouldn't activate. Stuff like that. So unfun glitches, which is annoying. Mechanically, it was a little clunky, like having to, in order to leap over obstacles, you first had to crouch in front of them, then you can leap over them,
so
which
weird.
just seems like an unnecessary step.
When you're leaping over something, aren't you usually like in motion? Or at least like part of the time?
No, but you gotta stop your motion entirely if you want to do it. And speaking of motion, the running in this game makes me want to vomit because he like goes head down and charges like a brute. And
there's a ton of screen shake on it. The
and
screen
there's a bunch
is just
of screen shake.
It's vibrating like crazy.
I feel like you're just talking about Mafia 2. Mafia 2's the same way.
Very similar mechanically.
It was solid. We were kind of lost on the story because for some reason the
first cutscene never activated, so we were
glitched.
A little confused on how this game kicked off.
Was it
just
supposed
threw
to
us
like
into gameplay?
Oh, okay. So there was supposed to be a cutscene there at the start.
Yeah,
yes,
so
we
I
didn't
looked
get to
it
see
up
it.
after we beat it. I looked it up on YouTube and saw that we did in fact miss a cutscene that did set up like our character's story of getting broken out of jail. Like where we start in a jail and we're like, why are we here? And then later on it's like, yeah, you were in jail. And it's like, oh, that's why we were in jail. But yeah, the first cutscene is our friend breaking us out of jail to go fight in this war. And we just had no idea.
What is up with these Ultimate Editions and Definitive Editions just being broken?
Yeah.
Obviously, they were made for money and not for love, which is fine. But
Is it fine?
The game was fine. It was okay. I got this sniper rifle and a like assault rifle with a chainsaw attached to it. You see the Gears of War thing is like sawing through the enemies in half. And I never switched weapons for the rest of the game because they were just the best ones.
Pistols are terrible. You never use a pistol. And then, you
so
just have the chainsaw gun. And then when it forces you to pick up the rail gun or what was it called? The gun that shoots a laser from a satellite. Hammer of Dawn. Sometimes it forces you into picking that up, so you lose either your sniper or your chainsaw gun. But other than that, yeah, those are the go-to weapons.
And it's not like Uncharted where you'll run out of ammo and then have to swap to a different gun. There's just these ammo crates that restore ammo to whatever weapon you have, so you don't have to switch ever. Oh. And so it did make it a little dry, just having the same weapons that were clearly the best. But some of the missions do change things up. There's a couple that are in a tank. There's some ones that are more based on some light platforming stuff, which is interesting. There's one really cool level where there's the bats. What are they called? I don't remember what they're
I've forgotten everything.
Yeah,
night crawlers.
But basically, if you were in the dark, these bats would swarm down and insta-kill you. So you had to shoot these propane tanks to create fires, to create lights to light your way. There was one point where I was manning a spotlight, and Zach was down below on the ground, and I had to guide the spotlight along with his footsteps, so he would stay in the light the whole time. So there was some creative stuff that kept it pretty well paced, and it's a pretty short game. So yeah, it was a good time. There were some cool boss fights too, like this guy who would just charge at you, straight at you, and basically insta-kill you, and you have to get him outside so you can use the laser satellites to take him out. So you kind of have to guide him through this building, have him break down doors, and then you sprint through the door before he can catch you, and then until you get him outside, and then just waste him with the laser. So there's some cool stuff. I've heard that 2 and 3 are really, really good, especially compared to 1, so we're probably going to move on to 2 pretty soon.
I would agree. We decently enjoyed 1. Although I think it had some real hard time, like, setting up this world and explaining the story of the first game. It did a very mediocre job doing that. Like, before you start the game, it gives you a small, like, 30-second cutscene kind of explaining the context of there were humans, there was an alien invasion, the humans kind of destroyed the world trying to fight these aliens, and that's kind of where we're at right now. We're thrown into a world that isn't
14
Earth.
Years later.
Oh. It took us a while to realize this was not Earth. We kind of realized when there was, like, statues of governments with like gears, like gears is their religion. I don't really know.
The gears
they
are
don't
never
really
explained.
explain it.
I can't tell you what a gear is.
But there's gears everywhere. And no, we're gears.
Yeah.
Like our team was gear. Everything's a gear.
You're like the soldiers are gears.
Yes.
Yeah.
The soldiers are
Gears
gears.
of
They're all
Yeah.
beefy. They're all massive. I think
They're
it's,
all
like,
former
something had to
football
do with their
players.
planet. Yeah. It's kind of ridiculous. That being said, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson did just post that he's making a new video game movie, and people are convinced that it's Gears of War because that movie has been in
fit it.
development hell for a very long
I
time.
didn't even know it was in
I think
development.
He's big and
He's
beefy.
the right size. He's the
Yeah.
right size.
Yeah.
So that would be a weird coincidence, but yeah, that'd be pretty cool. But yeah, I think that game warranted us moving on to better ones, especially since I think 2 is a lot of people's favorite. So excited to play more on that, especially if they are one-sitting games.
Yeah, did they get any longer?
Who knows?
Gears
Probably
5 is
5.
longer.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
But
it's
that's
a
'cause
modern generation.
that's more open world-ish, open area-ish.
Okay.
So,
That'll make
yeah.
things longer.
If we don't like 2, I think we'll just play 5 and then call it and skip everything else in between.
Well, because
'Cause
what?
I
It
still want to
goes
play 5.
1, 2, 3, and then Epic left, right?
Yes.
And then
Yes.
No,
somebody
they made
else-
Judgment. They made
They made
prequel.
Judgment. Okay. So
Yeah,
it's just like
and then
it's like
4.
it's like Bungie and Halo.
It's
you make
exactly
3 games.
the same.
You make a
Three in a
prequel,
row.
and you're
I don't
like,
know
I'm
how
out of
it's
here.
So similar, but it is crazy similar to the Halo franchise.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and then
who knows?
Xbox is just like, crap, we need both of these, so let's just make our own studios that'll just keep pumping them
Yeah.
out. But all right,
But Gears got ahead of it because people didn't like Gears 4 or Halo 4. People hated Halo 5 and like Halo 6, but people love Gears 5. Hear great things about Gears 5. So that it didn't take them 2 sequels to get it right,
Yeah.
like it did
No.
with
No, it
343.
it took a little more time on that, but at least they made it.
Yeah.
They made it eventually. All right, is it time for the O2?
I haven't talked about what I was playing. Played
PS5?
a lot of stuff. Yeah, there was a couple things I didn't play on PS5 that I'll talk about real quick, and then I
Really?
can talk about the stuff I got on PS5. Well, this was before I got my PS5. Last week, the day after our podcast, Hitman 3 dropped on Game Pass on Xbox, so I actually got the chance to play Hitman 3 on Game Pass. I played the first 2 Hitmans early last year, and then it on Hitman 3 because I didn't want to play it on an old generation console. And I thought it was fantastic. I think it started off harder than the other 2 games because they kind of feel like one big game that gets progressively harder as it goes through. Like 1's the easiest, 2's a little harder, and 3's harder than the second one. So you can see why Logan kind of felt a little overwhelmed starting with 3 because even in the first
That's
level
terrible.
I had some difficulty getting one of the targets. But overall, I thought the level design was the strongest in the trilogy. I thought all the levels were fantastic, especially the level with the detective through the mansion in the Knives Out style. I thought that was incredible. I went through the effort of solving the mystery before taking out the targets, which I highly recommend. So that was a lot of fun. And then other than that, a few weeks ago, I haven't mentioned it on the show because we didn't talk about what we were playing for a little bit, and then we only talked about the games we beat last week. But I did start Lost Judgment a few weeks ago. I played an hour to 2 hours of that, and I ordered my PS5, so that got put on hold because now I can just do the free upgrade and play it on the PS5
And the
version.
saves transfer this time.
And the saves transfer this time.
Which it
so
did
that's
for
super
7,
exciting.
right?
Yeah, so
That's
stupid.
nasty.
But it did on Xbox. I don't know what happened there.
So
Did you transfer it over?
yeah,
Was it seamless, or have you not done that yet?
I haven't done it yet. Hopefully it's seamless. I didn't play a crazy amount, so even if it's not seamless, I won't be brokenhearted. But yeah, starting that was fun. And then I played some more Ace Attorney Investigations 2. I'm on case 3, liking that case a lot. It's cooking themed. It's like a chef contest show. What are they called? Like Kitchen Nightmares or
That's a little
I
different,
don't.
but Iron
Yeah, I
Chef.
know. Iron Chef. That's one. I'm not really into the cooking show scene, but yeah, enjoying this case a lot so far. Not super far into it. And I think that's going to do it for the games that I didn't play on PS5, so...
Nice.
Let's get into the PS5. It's the O2 this week. How's it been?
Yep. It's been fantastic. I have loved playing my PS5. The PS4 is now put away. I don't have any free HDMI slots, so that's just now collecting dust. But yep, my PS5 arrived. Like we said earlier in the show, I ordered it from Walmart. They were very unclear on when it was actually going to arrive. It originally said it was going to arrive last Friday. And then last Friday, on Thursday, it hadn't even shipped yet. So I was like, it's probably not going to show up tomorrow. And then it shipped, and they were like, yeah, it's gonna come next Friday. I was like, that's a pretty big jump. But then over the weekend, it said, it's probably going to come on Monday. I was like, all right, Monday's pretty good. And then later that night, it said, okay, well, it's going to come on Tuesday.
Oh my God.
I was like, all right, Tuesday's fine too. And then it just showed up on Monday anyways, even though it said it was going to come on Tuesday.
That had to be a nice surprise.
It was a nice surprise. Because on Monday morning, I checked just to make sure it didn't get pushed out further, and it said out for delivery on our truck. So I was like, okay, hopefully it comes today. And it did. They just dropped it off in a very beat up Walmart box, opened it up. PS5 was fine. I was a little concerned, but no problems there. The setting it up process took a bit of time because cables aren't very long. I had to finagle a lot of Ethernet ports because I had to set my PS4 up to an Ethernet port and had to set my PS5 up to a separate Ethernet port to a separate TV so I could do the transfer. The transfer did not take very long, but finagling all these cords was very annoying. And then once everything was transferred, all my game data, all the games that I decided to bring over, the setup after that, pretty straightforward. I then could go into I logged in, my stuff was there, go into my library, download some games, checked out the PS Plus collection, didn't download anything from that. Nothing that was on my front burner at the moment from the
Black
PS
Ops
Plus
3?
collection. Black Ops 3
Persona
is not.
5.
Persona 5? No. Then when I set this up on my lunch on the day it arrived, so I didn't have much time. The first game that I tried out was Genshin Impact because Genshin Impact has a PS5 free upgrade, and it's easy to compare PS4 to PS5 since I've played it on PS4. So I hopped into the PS5 free upgrade, and man, what a difference. That game, it requires a lot of teleporting around, which is now instantaneous, no more loading screens. The frame rate and just the general look of the game is gorgeous. It runs flawlessly. So clearly, it is very obvious the hardware differences between the PS4 and the PS5 immediately. So that was the first game I got to try out, and then later on, once I had more free time, Logan and I actually tried out Monster Hunter World. I downloaded it because I wanted to see how it ran on PS5, because when we beat the game, Logan was playing on PS5, but I had to beat it on a PS4, so I wanted to see how smoothly it ran on PS5. So we hopped in and did a hunt for the first time in like a year, which was a lot of fun and very nostalgic.
It was.
Yep. Yep. So that was super cool. And then I bought Deathloop. Not on sale. I got it at Walmart, so it was only $50, but that's still quite a difference from like $25 to $30 that it was on sale. I didn't feel bad because I knew I was going to get a lot of miles out of this game, so a lot of miles. And I also played Miles Morales, but that's unrelated.
And Miles Edgeworth.
And Miles
So
Edgeworth.
much miles going on.
Oh, all right. Yeah, not a lot more to say. I've already played a decent amount of Logan's PS5, so I kind of knew what to expect playing Deathloop. So not a lot more to say there. But playing, and then right before this show, right after I got off of work, I decided to sit down and play Miles Morales. I had heard it was fairly short, so I figured I could do it in one sitting. I played pretty much straight from 6 to 11, so 5-ish hours, and I beat it. And I was playing in performance mode, which prioritized 60 FPS with no ray tracing, I believe. And it was absolutely gorgeous. I am very glad that I waited to play this on PS5 because it does feel like a definitive PS5 experience. swinging through New York. It was absolutely gorgeous. The frame rates felt buttery smooth. And the game in general, I haven't talked about it, but I absolutely loved it. I didn't have, crazy high expectations because it wasn't, like a full game. It was like an expand alone. But I thought that the pacing was really well, done really well. I really enjoyed Miles Morales. I've loved him since Into the Spider-Verse, and I think they did his character very well with all the side characters, and the story was very strong. So it was just really good to hop back into New York after not having playing Spider-Man since it came out. So that was a lot of fun, but yeah, it's still a overwhelming collectathon. So I don't think I'm gonna platinum it like I platinumed the first one. It's just every mission you're like, yeah, no, there's 30 new things around New York you can go collect. So no, but the main story and a couple of the side quests that I started but haven't finished were super good. I loved it a lot.
How do you feel about the triggers, like harder to pull when you're swinging around the city?
It wasn't very distracting. It was pretty subtle, but it was a nice little touch. Yeah, I've noticed the controller haptics a few times, like in Genshin Impact. You're gliding or just walking around, you can feel vibrations that I never felt on the PS4, the controller, and it's just cool little subtle things like that that gives you a little bit more of an immersive experience when you're playing these games. So I just think it's really really good idea, and games that focus on that might get a little old, but I think those subtle little haptics are never gonna really aren't noticeable enough to get old so quick. So I like that feature a lot.
Were you able to fit your PS5 in the room?
No, actually, that's a good point. So I've got a TV center with my games on a middle shelf, and the shelf is like, it's got two shelves, one at the top and one at the bottom. I've got my gaming console, I had my PS4 and my Series S on the top one, and I had to lower it like 6 inches just to get the PS5 in there, because the PS5 is like 16 inches tall. I measured it, so I knew if I would have to lower the thing or not, and then I actually had to go in and lower it. So that was, and then not only did I have to lower it, but I had to tilt it sideways, push it in, and then tilt it back up because there's a little extra space there's a lip in front. So this thing is absolutely massive. It is a very big piece of machinery, which makes sense given the things that it can do.
And it's not loud.
It's not
quiet.
It's really quiet, which is the most surprising thing. Like, it might get louder as it gets older and games get somehow better looking. Like,
they will.
Can games get better looking? I don't know.
That's the thought every single time when a game comes out.
Exactly.
And they do every time. They haven't strayed from that yet.
Forbidden West looks gorgeous. I don't know if you guys saw any of the gameplay that was coming out this week for that.
Yeah.
Looks really nice.
Yep. So glad that I have a PS5 now that these things are starting to come out. Like, the Uncharted Legacy Collection comes out in a couple days. I'm very excited to delve into a PS5 version of Uncharted 4, my favorite game of all time. Definitely going to sit down and play that after that comes out. And then in February we've got Horizon, which is one of the big things that people are getting PS5s for.
Or not.
And then
getting PS5s.
Or trying to get PS5s.
Yeah. Elden Ring the next week.
Yeah,
I know. February is going to be big.
Kicking off the year.
Horizon always come out the week before the most anticipated game of the year. I don't know, but it's happening again.
It's the most anticipated game of 2 different years, so
yeah,
that's even bigger. So overall, loving it a lot. It wasn't that big of a transition with the menus. The only difference is the PlayStation button, having to press it or hold it for various different menus. I haven't really delved into any of the challenges or like the trophy cards. There's still some features I haven't. Yeah, those features are nice that they're there, but I don't see myself using them unless, going for the platinum in Deathloop after my next playthrough. They might prove a little useful in that, but we'll see. And then, also my PlayStation year in review did not work. So
I haven't checked if mine got updated. Apparently, some people were able to get theirs a little bit later that were having troubles with it earlier, but I never tried again.
So being able to see how many hours I've played for games on PS5 is a nice feature. So I can actually see how long I've played certain
All
games.
systems should have that.
I know it's just really nice to be able to see that I've put 220 hours into Fall Guys, or something like that.
Just look at the Switch over there and being like, why do you only show me my top 20 most recent games and it's only an estimate? And then at the end of the year, you know the exact amount that I've played. So nice when they give you the exact numbers.
My PlayStation review worked.
I know. So
Wonder
did
what was
my
different.
friends. Yeah, I have no idea what I did wrong. I'll check it right now.
Yeah, it seemed to be. I mean, from people online, it seemed to kind of just be a crapshoot. Some people couldn't get it to work, and some people got it to work just fine. So it's like,
I saw a lot of people running into the same error that I was running into, which was basically it just said, "Uh-oh, have to be over 18,
Zach,
or live in an appropriate country." And I was like, 25 and I live in America. What more could you want from me? But oh god, this has never been easy
Logan,
to get to.
Did you get any interesting information from yours?
Yeah, I was just pulling it up to walk through it real quick.
It works.
Oh, yours is working?
It's working now.
Do I need to try?
Yeah, let's do
I'm
it.
just doing this on the show. Well, Logan, you can go through yours first since you actually got yours to work.
There's some embarrassing numbers.
So I did not spend much time comparatively to Switch on PlayStation this year, which is kind of a shame given it was the first year of the PS5. There's not a ton that specifically called to me. I played for 200 hours still, saying that's not much. That's still a lot of time. But 110 of that was Fall Guys, so it was pretty much 50% Fall Guys, 50% elsewhere. Sorry, 134 hours was Fall Guys. Then 50 hours of Divinity. So those are really the two main games I sunk time into.
We've already put 50 hours into Divinity?
Yes.
Yes, we got nowhere. That is embarrassing.
And then third was MLB The Show, which I got the PS5 version. So those are my top 3 games. And then a lot of it is just like community things. It's like, oh, in Returnal, there were 12 million hours played. Like, I really don't care about that. That really means nothing to me. Then it goes through your trophies. I got 100. And then the one I thought was funny was it tells you what percentage of the PS Plus games you claimed to just guilt you for missing ones that you forgot to get. So I redeemed 81% of them. I got 30 of the monthly games. I missed 19% somewhere along the way. And that's pretty much it. That's pretty much all it tells you. So it's not a very good wrap-up this year.
Yeah, I got mine to work. Mine works now.
All right, let's hear it.
173 hours, PS4 only. Only 9 of those hours was online, the rest offline, because that's how I normally play.
9 hours
Judgment, basically. Lost Judgment was my most played game, 49 hours. 13 Sentinels at 38. Yakuza Like a Dragon, 21. Ratchet and Clank, 14. Mafia Definitive Edition, 13.
Nice.
And what? Trophies? 186.
And what percentage of PS Plus games
did you redeem? Is that at the bottom?
Yeah, it's further down.
25, so 68%.
Oh.
Just 1 percentage point away. Well, like there were some where it was just like, I don't care about Call of Duty or whatever. Like,
yeah, I'm never gonna play that.
And then there's one, the Bugsnax one that I forgot about that was PS5 only that I didn't get. So screw me.
Did you get Destruction All Stars?
I don't remember. Not particularly memorable. Have you had to charge your controller yet, Zach? Is it low battery life?
I did actually when I was playing Miles Morales, but the cable is fairly long, and the distance from my PlayStation to my couch is just enough to where I can have it plugged in and be able to like sit a little bit forward and play it. So it wasn't a big deal, but yeah, it did not last crazy long.
Still disappointing.
Yep.
You can have the Switch Pro controller last like 20 hours or whatever, and then PlayStation you can't crack 5 hours.
I never charge my Pro controller. Like that thing has lasted a while.
Yeah, it's amazing. Zach, what percentage of PS Plus games did you redeem?
Silence.
Sorry, I had to scroll. 49%, not bad.
Oh,
49.
All right.
What was your slogan?
78.
Okay. Two of the
10
best.
I
out
remember
of
most months.
37. Yeah.
I remember most of
Even
the time.
if they're not particularly good.
I
Yeah.
remember half of the time.
Yep.
All right. Well, we'll have two people who can give impressions on PS5 games as they're coming out. Horizon, are you both going to be picking that up at or around launch?
I
I'd say
think
so.
on launch. Yeah, I think I'll get it on launch.
All right.
Buy the PS4 version.
Yeah, it's
I'm gonna
cheaper.
buy the PS4 version at Walmart and get a $70 game for $50. So I'm looking forward to that. That's gonna feel good.
The last time that you can do that, right?
Yep.
Before they remove the exploit.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe.
No, this is it.
Gotta
Or-
take advantage now while you can.
Yeah.
All right. Any final thoughts before we wrap it up? I think we've reached the end of this episode.
Zach, how many games have you beat this year? You're plowing through.
Oh, so far in 2022?
Yeah.
Because you added another one with Miles Morales.
And
I
Hitman
know.
3.
And Hitman 3.
And Gears of War.
Oh my god.
Stop judging me. I'm at a really good pace. I think it's either 6 or 7. Is 6.
6 games, nice.
6 in under a month.
I'm at
You
2.
could get 50.
So
You could get 50.
you could do it.
If
Now
I-
you got a whole
I
new
didn't
console.
get 50 last year, and I played a crap ton of games last year. I don't know how you did 50.
Why don't you pick some
Picking up
smaller
games I was
experiences?
like 2 hours away from the end on. Like Lost World 3DS. I just plowed through the last world. And I counted. That's how I did it.
Enough.
Like 30 of my 50 were things unfinished from like my entire life.
Yeah, if you're doing things from the start for all your 50,
Yeah.
that'd be really tough.
Yeah, for sure.
Basically be all you're doing. Zach, any final thoughts on the PS5 for this week?
I'm excited for Uncharted. I'm so excited. I'm glad I got it just before Uncharted dropped.
I wouldn't be surprised if we have both beat Uncharted 4 by next week.
Heard it looks really good.
Yeah.
It's gonna happen.
Yeah. All right. That's going to do it for us on this week's episode of Oda Games. We're here on Thursdays or Fridays. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, our website, odagames.com, other podcast streaming services that you may use. Video version is on YouTube at Oda Games. You can find us on Twitter at Oda Games. You can send an email to odagamescast@gmail.com. For Logan and Zach, I'm Kevin. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll catch you next week.